In the 5 weeks since February 28th, 2026, the world has been glued to a dramatic and very lopsided conflict. On one side, you have the United States and Israel, unleashing a staggering display of military might, systematically tearing apart Iran's ability to fight a conventional war. From the Pentagon's perspective, it's a story of overwhelming success, full of precision strikes and technological dominance. But that's only one side of the story. While American war planners are counting destroyed tanks and missile sites, Tehran is counting something else: the soaring price of oil, rising anxiety in global markets, and the fraying nerves of American voters. The U.S. has achieved a string of what look like decisive victories, but while the Pentagon is winning on the battlefield, Iran is fighting a different kind of war. It's not a war for territory, but a war for time. By squeezing the world's economic arteries, Iran is betting it can inflict enough financial pain to break America's will to fight. So who's actually winning? The answer is a lot more complicated than you might think. The American-led campaign, Operation Epic Fury, is a massive escalation of the more limited strikes that happened back in June of 2025. That first operation was a quick 37-hour hit meant to set back Iran's nuclear program. Epic Fury, on the other hand, is a full-blown assault. President Trump laid out some pretty ambitious goals: stop Iran from getting a nuke, destroy its missile arsenal, dismantle its proxy network, and annihilate its navy, all in the hope that it would trigger regime change from within. And by any conventional military measure, the results have been stunning. The campaign kicked off with a decapitation strike that killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, was quickly put in his place, a move that seemed to signal defiance and consolidate the power of the hardline IRGC. In the weeks that followed, U.S. and Israeli forces launched a relentless air campaign, hitting over 11,000 targets. The Iranian Navy has been effectively erased as a fighting force, with more than 30 of its ships sunk, some before they could even leave the pier. The impact on Iran's drone and missile capabilities has been just as dramatic. Drone attacks have reportedly plummeted by 83 to 95%, and their once feared ballistic missile barrages have seen a 90% drop in effectiveness. The core of Iran's power has been systematically dismantled. U.S. and Israeli forces have hit over 123 bases belonging to the IRGC and other security forces, trying to weaken the regime's iron grip on its own people. The nuclear program, the main justification for the war, has been hit hard. B-2 stealth bombers dropped massive GBU-57 bunker busters on the underground sites at Fordow and Natanz, while Tomahawk missiles struck the research complex at Isfahan. While it hasn't completely wiped out Iran's nuclear know-how, it's set them back by months, maybe longer. From the White House, the message is one of total success. President Trump claims the operation is, quote, ahead of schedule, and is quick to point out that it's all being done without American boots on the ground. Officially, the number of U.S. service members killed is somewhere between 4 and 13. A tragic but remarkably low number for a war of this scale. From a purely military standpoint, the scoreboard is completely one-sided. But modern wars are rarely won on a military scoreboard. Iran, knowing it can't go toe-to-toe with American firepower, has shifted the fight to a different battlefield: the global economy. This is geoeconomic warfare, and it's where Tehran thinks it can win. The strategy isn't to defeat the U.S. military. It's to make the war so expensive for the rest of the world that America's political will to fight simply collapses. The key to this strategy is the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow channel is the jugular vein of the world's energy supply. About 20% of the world's daily oil and a quarter of its liquefied natural gas passes right through it. On February 28th, Iran shut it down. They issued warnings, supposedly laid mines, and started using drones to attack ships, grinding traffic to a halt. According to UNCTAD, daily ship traffic plunged by 95% in March. The shock was immediate. Global oil prices, which had been stable, shot through the roof. Brent crude flew past $100 a barrel, even hitting $126 at its peak, before releases from strategic reserves brought it back down a bit. But the damage was done. That price surge acted like a, quote, war tax on the entire global economy, feeding inflation and sparking fears of a recession.
And the U.S. wasn't immune. Soaring gas prices hit American consumers right away, a political vulnerability Iran knows how to exploit. The pain didn't stop at the gas pump. Qatar, a huge natural gas exporter, had to halt its shipments. The Strait's closure also cut off other vital industrial materials from the Gulf, like hydrocarbon derivatives and urea fertilizer, which is critical for growing food. Suddenly, the global supply of plastics, aluminum, sulfur, and helium was threatened, driving up the cost of everything from cars to medical equipment. As analysts at the Kiel Institute put it, it's a bottleneck mechanism. An energy shock becomes a fertilizer shock, which then threatens to become a food crisis, especially for developing nations that depend on those imports. So while its conventional military was getting hammered, Iran's asymmetric strategy proved resilient. Its scattered network of drone and missile launchers, though damaged, could still carry out sporadic attacks, sowing just enough chaos to prove they were still in the fight. This is Iran's path to victory. It doesn't need to sink an American aircraft carrier. It just needs to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, keep oil prices high, and let the economic pain build until America's allies and its own citizens decide the cost is too high. This brings us to the third and maybe most decisive front in this war: the battle for political will. Stunning military victories don't mean a thing if you can't achieve your strategic goals before your political support back home dries up. And it's here, on the American home front, that Iran's economic strategy is meant to land its knockout blow. The economic fallout from the war isn't just a number on a screen. It's being felt by American voters every day. High gas prices are a classic driver of political anxiety in the U.S., hitting household budgets and tanking consumer confidence. A recent CBS News YouGov poll showed that Americans, by a massive 48-point margin, expect the war to hurt the economy. That kind of pessimism is a huge political problem for any president. This puts the Trump administration in a serious bind. The president has to project strength to the world while trying to manage the economic anger at home. His statements have swung between threatening to hit Iran extremely hard and promising Americans the conflict is almost over, maybe in just 2 to 3 weeks. That messaging reflects the central tension of this war. The U.S. wants a quick, clean military win, but it's stuck in a messy, grinding economic fight. The conflict is also creating cracks in Trump's America First base. While many of his supporters see the war as a necessary evil, a vocal non-interventionist wing is questioning the wisdom of another Middle East war, especially one that costs so much at the pump. And the deaths of 13 U.S. service members, while low for the military, is a painful reminder of the human cost. Iran's leadership, on the other hand, is playing a completely different game. The new regime, backed by the IRGC, is built to endure pain. It sees this as an existential fight for survival. For the U.S., the clock is ticking, measured in poll numbers and election cycles. For Iran, the strategy is to run out that clock, bog the U.S. down in a costly mess, and wait for the political pressure in Washington to become too much to handle. This is the trap Iran has set. By turning the conflict into a global economic crisis, Tehran has put the burden on the U.S. To actually win,
America might have to do more than just blow up military targets. It might have to physically seize Iranian territory to reopen the strait, or launch strikes that could risk a much wider, more devastating regional war. The question isn't whether the U.S. military can do it. The question is whether it has the political will to pay the price. This conflict is changing by the day on all fronts, military, economic, and political. To keep up with the latest and understand what it all means, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, and let us know what you think in the comments. Based on everything we've seen, who do you think is really winning this thing? So who is actually winning the war between the US and Iran? The answer really depends on how you're keeping score. If you're counting military victories, destroyed missile launchers, sunken ships, and targets hit, then the United States is winning, and it's not even close. The campaign has been a textbook display of modern American firepower. But if winning means achieving your long-term goals at a cost you're willing to pay, the picture gets a lot murkier. Iran has successfully changed the game. It has taken the American military's best shots and has countered not with force, but with a calculated campaign of global economic pain. It has turned the world's dependence on oil from a simple fact into a strategic weapon. The United States is winning the war it wanted to fight. But Iran is fighting a war of endurance, betting it can survive the physical damage long enough for the economic damage to break America's political resolve. The real question is, can the U.S. turn its incredible tactical success into a lasting strategic victory before the economic blowback and political fatigue at home force a change of course? In the end, the winner won't be who fights better, but who can stand the pain of the fight longer.